Hi, Paul and Michelle here from Hobby2Business. Welcome to episode 3 of our weekly show, Hobby2Business Hub. So today we thought what we do is give you, we went and did our top 10 tips for working at home. Like, although that sounds very silly, working at home is an art, because if you don't do it right, or you're working from home and you don't put a few basic things in place, your day gets derailed very quickly. There's lots of distractions at home. There's just a lot of things that can really derail your day. Yep. So we've gone through, and the techniques that we've used and put in place over the last 2 years so these are our top 10 tips. So yeah, on how and how to do it. And like I said, it probably sounds a little bit silly of what we're talking about, but if you've worked from home, you'll understand how your day can just go from a great where you thought you're going to get so much done to absolutely derailed by the end of the day, and you're sitting there at night thinking, I've done about a tenth of what I was supposed to do, but I was flat out all day. How did that happen? So, and we've had a few of those days. So from that, we've developed a few tips, and so here are the Hobby2Business top 10 tips for working from home. Okay,
so here they are. Number 1, we have get started early.
So it's very important that you get up and get into it early. That you've got to have a redundancy in your day if things go wrong. Now, if you don't get started till 10 a.m. or 11 a.m., forget about it. Get up, get started early. You're most productive at the start of the day anyway. So, yeah, get up, get into it early.
Yep. So, number 2, structure your day.
Okay, you need to know, this is about having a little bit of organisation, a little bit of a plan. You should know what you want to achieve for the day. You should have a rough plan. Say editing videos, you've got 2 videos to edit. That takes you about 2 hours. You've gotten started at 7 o'clock. By 9 o'clock you're going to have your editing done. By 12 o'clock you're going to have your next job done. Just a little, you're going to have lunch at 12. You're going to give yourself half an hour, and then you've got something you've got to knock off after lunch. It's going to take an hour or 2. So a little bit of structure for your day will keep you on track.
Yep. And for us personally, Paul and I, we actually structure our whole week on a planning session that we have on a Sunday. So we'll work out what we have. I'm lucky I work around the kids. So I go, okay, I've got these appointments these days. The kids have got school sports these days. And we go, okay, I've got 4 hours to fit in work this day. This day I've got 6. And we structure in.
It's all structured out. But we actually make our planning session fun. Like on a Sunday afternoon, we'll sit down and pour a drink, and whether it be, if it's winter, it might be cold, and we make a nice hot coffee or something, and and crank the fireplace and sit around and have a planning session. Or in summer, like lately, we sit on the back patio. Michelle grabs a wine, I grab a rum, and we sit down and relax and plan our week ahead. So
it's a pretty good planning session.
Yeah, you can really make it fun. Planning doesn't have to be some boring thing that you dread doing. Planning can be fun. Yep. You've got to find what works for you and do what works. If that's what you do to enjoy it, then do it.
Yep. Okay, so then we go into number 3, which is choose a dedicated workspace.
This is very important for breaking up for yourself when you're working and when you're not. Have a dedicated workspace, like Michelle said, somewhere where you can go, it's work time. Mentally you switch on, it's work time because I'm in the workspace. Like, we've obviously got our office at home. When we're doing work, we're in there. Okay, obviously, when we do our planning sessions and stuff like that, we like to change it up. Sometimes a coffee shop, sometimes it's out the back, sometimes we've even done our planning sessions, standing in the pool, with Michelle taking notes or me taking notes while we're standing in the pool when it's really hot over summer. So, you can vary that up. But when we really want to get into it, when we want to work, when we want to be productive and really pump out some outcomes for us, and that's what it's about. Having a dedicated workspace is about being focused on outcomes. So that's what you've got to do.
That's right. So number 5, we have work out when you're most productive.
Okay, this is a good one. This is going to be different for everybody. Like I said before, when I said before about getting started at 10 or 11, forget about it. That's for Michelle and I. We get up early. We start early. We're most productive in those first 3 or 4 hours of the day. Yep. So I know myself, like, purely when I'm doing this type of work, I can pump out as much in the first 3 or 4 hours of the day as I probably do in the last 6 or 7 hours of the day.
Yeah,
So you've got to work out when you're productive. Some people are productive from lunchtime onwards. That's their thing, you know, and they'll work through it and work into the night, or do a couple of hours in the afternoon and just smash it out. So you've got to find your own rhythm. Find out when you're productive. It might be that the middle of the day is your thing. So, or you might find, I know somebody that we do work with that gets coaching from us, from Hobby2Business, they're productive in short spurts. If they sit down and pump out an hour and then maybe do an hour in the morning and an hour at night, or an hour one day and an hour the next day, they're much more productive than trying to dedicate a whole day to something. So
yeah, a whole day doesn't work for them.
Yeah, I mean, look, a whole day doesn't work for most people.
Yeah.
You know, it's when you're a bit off and you're not fresh anymore, and you find it hard to do things, and you're not getting many outcomes, or you're not chewing through things like you'd want to. Sometimes it's best just to cut it and be done.
Yeah.
You know, and come back when you're fresh. Come back when you're most productive.
It's actually, you don't create anything good when you're tired
No,
or exhausted.
That's right. Well, sometimes it's just you've had enough of what you're doing.
Yeah.
You know, and the enthusiasm wanes a bit, and with that the creativity wanes. You know, and you don't want that, because you want to be creating and doing things that your customers and your people, your potential customers, see and go, wow. And when you're not in the right headspace, that doesn't happen. So.
That's right. So we have number 6, which is save calls until the afternoon.
This is a great one, because if you want to derail your day early, take phone calls. Okay? Schedule it into your day that you only answer phone calls. Like, get that most productive time of the day, or whatever your most productive time is. Like, if your most productive time is after lunch, take calls early. But when you're most productive, you do what you do best. Okay? You create content. You do, you know, make the product, do the creative stuff, when you're productive, smash out the really good stuff. Okay, that's key rule.
Yeah, that's very important. Okay, that leads us into number 7, which is plan what you'll be working on ahead of time.
Okay, once again, we spoke earlier about planning out your day a little bit. Prep your work a bit too. We like to prep for the next day, like at the end of, say, for tomorrow, we would have prepped already for tomorrow. So you do a little bit of a quick recap on what you're going to do tomorrow. So you've got it clear in your head. So when you get up in the morning, you don't waste that half hour getting everything in line, doing what you need to do. You know what you need to do. You get up, the plan's there, you get into it.
Yep.
You know, if you needed to get stuff out and be ready to go, or whatever you had to have ready, have it ready the night before. You know, that's pre-planning.
You'll be so much more organised.
Yep, and your output will be, like, I'm not joking, 100% increase on top of what you normally do.
Yeah, sure.
For that little tiny bit of planning the day before.
Yep. Yeah. Okay, so we have number 8, which is communicate with anyone at home.
Okay, that's a bit of a vague one, but what it's really trying to say is, if you're working from home and there's other people in the house, say on the weekend you're working from home and your partner and the kids are there, you know, and say you've planned that you want to pump out some content, you're going to get up at 6:30, you're going to have a coffee, you're going to get ready at 7 o'clock, you're going to start, and you're giving yourself from 7 until 10 to get this work done that you need to do. So the idea would be, you've got to grab the kids, you've got to grab your partner, and you've got to tell them, listen, between 7 and 10, I'm going to be busy. Only bother me if it's an emergency. Obviously in a much nicer way than what I just said at 10. But, you know, but you've got to get people to understand, they've got to understand your goal. Because if they don't think what you're doing is important, or don't understand that what you're doing needs to be done, they're going to come and bother you every 5 minutes. Get people on board. Communicate. Let them know the plans. And that's, once again, we get back to a little bit of pre-planning, isn't it? That's pre-planning. Yeah. You know, you're getting everyone on board with what you've got to get done. Yeah. Takes about, 30 seconds to let everyone know where you're at. And at the end of it, you can finish what you had to do and be happy and know that you spent the least amount of time away from your family and got the most output you can get out of those couple of hours.
That's right.
So, very important.
That also goes to with family and friends. There's a lot of stigma around working from home, and people tend to think you're always available to take phone calls, or I'll just pop in for coffee. Just kindly let your family and friends know that, okay, I'm working this day, I've got to get work done. So that way you're not having those interruptive phone calls where you've got people that just wanted to pop in for a chat or...
Yeah, very much so.
Yeah.
Very much so. I think, yeah, and that's a good one. That's that's probably I forgot totally about that. But there are influences that occur from outside the home as well.
Yeah.
So.
Okay, so then we have number 9, which is take clear breaks.
So you need to define, that you say you're doing a full day. You're going to have, you get started about 7. You might, you get a little bit done, or say you start after you drop the kids off at school, for example. Let's use
which is what I
example. Yeah. So you're back at home by 9:30. You're into it. Okay. You say, righto, 9:30. I'm going to give myself a good 2.5 hours, and then I'm going to have half an hour lunch.
Yep.
Half an hour lunch, and then you might say, righto, I'm going to have a half an hour lunch, I'm going to have a break, I'm going to have a coffee, I'm going to sit down and watch a show for half an hour and just clear my head. Clear breaks allow you to give you those micro breaks your body needs to recharge.
Yeah, you need them.
So you'll find you would be more productive working, say, 2.5 hours, having a break, and then working another 2 hours than you would trying to work for 5 hours.
Yeah. Yep.
You would be much more productive because you've had this break where you've refreshed, you get back into it, you've gotten your head into a different space. It's amazing how much it can refresh you and get your head back into that creative space it needs to be in to be a person, of influence that's, obviously an entrepreneur and being successful at being an entrepreneur. Sorry, I'll get that word right eventually. And in whatever they, like in whatever field of, entrepreneurial pursuits they're in.
Yeah.
So,
very important.
Yeah.
Okay, so we have our last one, which is pick a definitive start and finish time for each day.